Flash Shelton, anti-squatter activist, founder of the United Handyman's Association. Flash, how you doing, brother?
I'm well. Good morning. How are you?
Really good, and I know you're in California, so thanks for getting up nice and early for us. We're grateful for your expertise here. Tell us first your story, your first interaction with squatters.
Yeah, my first interaction was pretty much the same as everyone's. 2019, after my dad had passed away, we moved my mom out of the house, moved her in with me, thought it's going to be a quick sell. We'll sell her house and have her, be able to move on with her life. And I get a report that someone broke in the back door and that, that there was a break-in. So I called the sheriff, did what everyone would do. I wasn't local, so I couldn't go to the house. And the deputy goes out and calls me and says, well, I thought you told me that the house was vacant. It was empty. And I said, yeah. And he says, well, there's a house full of furniture, so it appears you have a squatter, and there's nothing we can do. So I was,
What state is this in?
This is in Northern California.
Okay.
And so I, just like everyone, I'm blindsided. I don't know at this point, anything. So I do a quick, weekend cramming session of squatter laws and squatter rights. And, I had heard horror stories before and the nightmares that people had gone through and heard that, in many cases, squatters have illegal, fraud, fake leases. So I dissected the laws, broke them down, simplified them, found loopholes, and figured out, okay, so this is my plan. I tell my mom, I can't tell her she has squatters. I don't want to mess with her mental, stability at the time.
Sure.
So I tell her that I'm going to go do some maintenance on the house, and just so I can be there and no one gives me any trouble, I need a lease. So we write up a lease in my name just in case they have a lease, because I want to be able to fight, fire with fire. And I pack up and I drive like 10, 12 hours. I pack up my, my dog, my gun, my Jeep, my lease, and I hit the road. I get there about 4 a.m. and I'm parked down the street. I witness 3 cars in the driveway, and I just wait. And I scope it out, and around 8:30 in the morning, I see some movement, people walking out, and I counted what appeared to be 5 men and 2 women walking out, getting in cars, and leaving. So I figured, that's 7 people. It's got to be everybody. So I go down, and I start, fixing. I board up the back door, secure that. I put cameras up and an alarm system. And as I'm putting up the last camera in the driveway, a car pulls up behind me, and it's 2 women. And, I had, in the process right before that, I had talked to the neighbor across the street, a young guy, college-age guy or something. I just said, big guy, and I said, hey, do you guys need any furniture? And he's like, yeah. I said, well, if you don't see, like, by 5 p.m. a whole, driveway full of furniture, then come help me get it out of the house, and you can have anything you want. So I told this woman, I said, look, here's the deal. I'm basically squatting this house now. This house is mine. I said, and everything in it belongs to me. And I said, I've got cameras and alarm, and you're not going to be able to get back in this house. So you have a choice. You can leave with your furniture or without your furniture. And I said, and, I've promised it to, other people if they want to come and get it for me. And I said, so, here's the deal. And I said, if, right now, no charges have been filed, but if you try to break in on camera, then I will prosecute. So bottom line is I got them out in less than a day, and I was shooting video of this whole thing to post on YouTube, but I held on to it because then after that, COVID happened, and And so, I would have been, instead of America's hero, I would have been, a villain if I kicked people out during COVID. So
yes,
I held on to it, and I posted it January of 2023, and on my channel, Outside the Box with Flash, and it's 5.5 million views now. And it just,
awesome.
Started getting me a lot of attention by March, and, a lot of things have happened since then.
Yeah, now you're the guy. So, and I've seen these stories on Airbnb too, right? Someone will have an Airbnb, they'll open their house on Airbnb, someone will come in and they just won't leave. And then the homeowner will like turn off the electricity or turn off the water. And then they get sued, or the guy calls the police on them because they're violating tenants' rights by depriving me of water. And you're like, no, you're in my house. You're stealing my house from me. So what is, how can this possibly be? And I know every state's different, but how can this be so screwed up in the places that it's screwed up?
And mostly the states that have squatter rights, and, they are screwed up, and they're all pretty much the same, and where squatters are treated like tenants. And, I did one of my videos on an Airbnb thing, because I'm seeing that a lot, and I believe that, and I'm trying to basically bring, I would love for Airbnb to be forced to start doing screening, so that, basically the same as a homeowner would have to do for a tenant, because this is pretty common. And, the laws are just so screwed up, and that is my main focus, is changing laws. But I am helping people get their squatters out as well. I just, I understand, and tenants, absolutely. Tenants deserve civil process. You don't want a situation where a landlord can change their mind and just kick somebody out without any warning or anything. But these are criminal. This is criminal behavior. This is people that are going in under false pretenses. They're breaking in. I've got families coming home from vacation and finding a squatter sleeping on their couch. I mean, it's just gotten out of hand, and it's no longer, it's criminal behavior. And when you look back at how squatter laws even started in the first place, it was the 1800s for undocumented land. It had nothing to do with residential maintained property. So if they just went by the actual law itself, we wouldn't be having these problems. And the problem is that there needs to be a clear distinction between squatters and tenants. Squatters criminal and tenants civil.
Well, yeah, and there is one. I was going to ask you the genesis of these squatter rights, and I had a feeling that it would go back to like the Homestead Act or whatever. But like clearly, there's nothing to do with the Homestead Act in Queens, New York. So I don't understand why the police. And I'm not blaming them necessarily, but like the police will show up and they do this, like what the sheriff told you, like nothing I can do. And you're like, what do you mean there's nothing? Clearly, this is not the tenant.
Yeah.
I'm the homeowner right here. Here I am. I'm telling you, these people here are not tenants here. They don't live here. That's a fake lease. Get them out. Like, I don't understand why that's the end of the conversation.
Yeah,
and that's not the end of the conversation.
Yeah, and law enforcement, they're my biggest supporters. I mean, across the United States. So I don't blame law enforcement at all. They're handcuffed. They're told what they can say and what they can do. And the problem here is that homeowners are never presumed the resident. So a homeowner, because in many cases they're renting a home out, so they are not allowed to decipher who's a tenant and who isn't. They can't even, in most cases, ask to see the lease, because even if they had the lease in hand, they don't have the authority to decide if it's a real lease or a fake lease.
Yeah, that's right. I guess that makes sense. Oh, that's just so unbelievably unjust. I'm sure you saw the video of the illegal alien Venezuelan guy saying, "Hey, everyone, here's squatter laws," or whatever. Is he wrong? / could this be used by people who are here illegally to just take people's houses?
He isn't wrong. I mean, think about it. We have a system that's allowing it. I mean, he's talking about starting it as a business, and he's not wrong. I mean, I'm building my squatter hunter army, and I'm recruiting people across the United States to combat this. But he isn't wrong. I mean, we're when I talk to squatters, they're entitled, and they're basically just feeling like, look, it's not my fault that the laws allow me to do this, and it's my right to be able to take advantage of this. So in one sense, I'm thinking, well, can I blame them? And then my common sense comes in and says, well, yeah, because they're still taking advantage of somebody else.
Yeah, that's so good. I'm so glad you brought that up. It's not my fault that the laws allow me to steal a thing from you.
Right.
Wow. Do they have any empathy at all? Is there any even an ounce? Or what is going on in their brain when you talk to them?
So I have a video that I posted up. It's an example of a squatter intervention is what I call it, and it's with Umami Burger founder Adam Fleischman, who is squatting in a Hollywood Hills home. And it's 21 minutes of this man showing his narcissistic, entitled, just this behavior. If you watch that video and listen to the words that come out of his mouth, it's exactly what I hear, what I see. Squatters are just a different breed. They look at a family and say, I will put you out on the street, I will bankrupt you, I will take your house from you, and there's nothing you can do about it, and I will celebrate it. This man told two buddies of his on my video, he says, when the old lady dies, you will get first shot at her room. I mean, what kind of sick person says something like that?
Wow. Where can people watch? I got a few more questions, but where can people watch these videos? What's your YouTube channel?
It's Outside the Box with Flash.
So do they need to be there for 30 days or is it just I'm here now, it's mine? Or do they have to bring in furniture and pretend like they're living there? Or do they have to pay a water bill? Or what's the standard for them to be like, oh, it's actually mine now?
New York has a 30-day rule. And, and I've said that I've gone on record saying that from what I've seen, New York is the worst. However, I was just on a news broadcast yesterday where the other guest had a situation where his squatters were only there in New York for 3 days, and he still had no rights, and the police wouldn't intervene. It's bad, and I think that the problem is, there isn't unless you can prove, and I say, look, prevent squatters with cameras and alarms so you can prove when they actually enter, because if you can't prove it, then it won't matter how long they were in there. I have, the Hollywood Hills guy, he goes in with a backpack. He answers an ad for a room for rent on Craigslist. He goes in with a backpack. He sits on the bed and says, I'll take it. The homeowner says, what do you mean you'll take it? I haven't decided on you. And he says, I'm not leaving. And I'll call the cops. And he says, call the cops. By the time the cops show up, he empties his backpack, puts clothes in the closet. They show up. He says, look, I'm living here. I have clothes in the closet. And that's all it took.